America needs a lesson in basic economics, and I'm going to give you one. All right, I was reading an article. Julian Castro. He's one of the clowns that him and AOC put together this boycott of Goya Foods. That worked out real well for him, didn't it? Yeah, thank goodness. Americans got a little sense. But I was reading an article that was put out on him that left me kind of laughing. This fella talking about food lunch programs that said American taxpayers were responsible to make sure that children were fed. I thought we had a SNAP program that took care of that. Oh no, wait. A lot of people are out selling their children's food for extra cash so they can go out and buy booze and cigarettes and dope or whatever. I can see that. Feel sorry for the kids. Once $15 an hour minimum wage for all farm workers. Well, yeah, sounds good. Although, like in places like Seattle and so forth, a lot of the people there were hit very hard with when they raised minimum wage to $15. Mainly restaurant workers, because they would make $9 an hour plus tips. And most of the restaurant workers were saying what I made in tips equaled out to where I was making $20 and $25 an hour or more on weekends and things of that nature. Once they imposed the $15 an hour, where that was a bang, went straight to the business, and the business imposed a 20% gratuity charge on all tickets, and that was a portion of it went to the employees. It was basically to cover the additional cost of the $15 an hour minimum wage that was put in. Cut back employee hours, things of this nature. I'd read an article where quite a few of these restaurant workers were saying, I lost a lot of money. And now in a job that I really love doing, I gotta find something else because I can't make a living anymore. Yeah, you really helped them out. You also had a large percentage of businesses that was having the problem with if their employees were, say, on government programs of any sort. Then they sat down and did the math on it and found out that if they worked full time at $15 an hour, they lost a lot of their benefits. So they were going to their employers saying, I can't work that many hours. Well, the employer is going to have to pay the $15 an hour no matter what. And so most of them decided, well, I'm not going to hire extra employees because you don't want to work the hours. So I have the job at $15 an hour. That's 40 hours a week. Be here or not. But understand, if it's a not, you're not coming back. So a lot of people left the workforce and they got to bring in more. So now we've went from people on aid that was working their way off to back on full-time aid. That worked out well. But anyway, this Julian Castro, he kind of tickled me. Because he was talking about free lunches. Free lunches, okay. We're responsible for feeding these children. I kind of had a flashback to an old video that was out there of a chick who was in she had spent her money on other things and didn't pay her rent and was homeless. And some organization put her up in a hotel, and she did this video up in this room with 11 kids of hers, 11 kids, pointing around the room going, who's going to be responsible for these kids? Man, you wanted to reach through the screen, grab that little girl by the collar, get nose to nose with her, and say, "You are. Ultimately, you are responsible for those children. You brought them into this world. You are responsible for their care, their education, and their upbringing. You are. I'm not. See, I couldn't afford 11 kids. And I'm getting a little sick of my tax dollars supporting yours. See what I'm saying? What gives these Democrats the right? And they're the ones who push most of this nonsense. And if the Republicans disagree with them, no, they're just non-caring, want to watch children starve to death. Here's a simple fact. Benjamin Franklin said it best, matter of fact. The best way to help somebody in poverty is to make them uncomfortable in that poverty, so they want to improve their life. I would say in extreme cases, if children are not getting enough to eat to the point it becomes abusive, then it's up to the individual states to step up and take over the custody and the care of that child. Understand, the child needs to be removed from the environment that is keeping them from eating regularly, especially with all the programs out there today that we're already paying for. Don't come asking for more. Seriously. Democrats want all these illegal aliens running around. Now, the guy at Goya Food, they called for this boycott and so forth because he met with the president and, told him that the country was fortunate for having him here. He also met with Barack Obama. Pretty much said the same thing. So you think about that for 30 seconds. Barack Obama threw more Hispanics out of this country than the presidents before him and after him. He set the record. Who's picked on the Hispanics? Okay? Yeah, and now Barack Obama stood there telling them, "Oh, I love you guys. You're so wonderful. We're so lucky to have you. Now get the heck out." As soon as the camera was turned off. Donald Trump says, "I don't want you coming here in the first place because a lot of lowlife and criminals come across that border too. A lot of hard workers, but a lot of lowlifes and criminals come across that border." Was he lying? No. What do you think? MS-13 gang members step across that border of ours and go, "Oh, I'm in America now. I think I'm going to get a college degree and become a CEO of my own company"? Or do you think they're going to keep doing the same things they were doing before? And if you think they're going to become that company CEO, guess what? You've been smoking too much of the stuff they've been selling. Well, let's tax the corporations to get the extra money. Something I learned when I was very young. You don't tax a corporation. You make them incur additional expense, which they tack on to their cost of goods sold and pass right back to the consumer. So the consumer ends up paying for that tax, not the company, not the corporation. See how that works, Democrats? And you know how it works. You don't care how it works. You just want to be the party of, let us give you more free stuff. We are $24 trillion in debt from giving out free stuff. Sooner or later, that bill's got to be paid. And then you young people who've been running around going, "Gimme, gimme, 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 gimme," are going to suddenly learn, what do you mean you're taking 90% of my check? It's what it's going to take. Now, I can tell you why. I went through the years of Jimmy Carter, okay, where prices were changing in a grocery store so fast, and they weren't changing for the better. You'd buy a gallon of milk. I literally had this happen with the kids at home, bought a gallon of milk, went out to the car, thought, yeah, that's not a bad price. I'm going to go back and get some more. Get a couple of gallons extra, just, Yeah. By the time I'd went to the car and got back into that store to get more milk, they had done come by with the price gun. Yeah, now that milk cost me 50 cents more a gallon. That's how fast prices will change. called inflation. Jimmy Carter. God love him. He, up till recently, was listed as the worst president this country had ever had. Democrat. And he was giving away a lot of free stuff. And that's okay, because they just printed more money. Yeah. We've been printing a lot of money. Matter of fact, Barack Obama, when he was running for president the first time, I thought, that might be a good guy. Might be a good guy. But I kept referring back to the fact he just seemed to be a do-nothing politician the whole time he was in the state of Illinois, so I had my problems with it. Yeah, he said that, looked at George Bush, and your spending is just insanity. To spend money you don't have. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. And then became the guy that had spent and ran up the federal deficit more than all the other presidents from George Washington on combined, including during 2 world wars. Freebies. America, it's time to stop this nonsense. Okay? People are going to have to learn that they're going to have to work for a check. They are going to have to take care of their own children. Unless y'all want to get together and sign a thing when you first sign up for these programs that you are going to put the control of your reproduction in the hands of the people who are paying for it. Used to be when public aid was first brought about. Okay? You didn't get more money for having more kids. You lost money. Because they had you sign a thing saying you wouldn't have. Maybe we need to go back to those days. You get on public aid with 1 kid, when child number 2 comes along, you just lost a good chunk of your public aid. Women had to go out and get back into the workforce. I'm not going to support your 11 kids. Okay? Most Americans don't want to. But you've got a whole group of college kids now coming out wanting us all to pay their colleges. Average bill $100,000. Oh, I want to go to college and you all pay the bill. What they're so stupid is they come out of college, and if they enacted a program like that, they're going to go to work for a job and they're going to look at $15 an hour as maybe being a good deal, because what the government's taking out of their taxes at that $100,000 a year job is killing them. You wake up and find out, no, there's no free money. Okay? Oh, the government can print more. Yeah, they can print more. Sooner or later, and here's the one that gets you, sooner or later, when the bill comes due and they have to pay it, okay, they have to raise interest rates. Today, you kids go out and buy a house, pay 4 or 5% interest. Yeah, well, when the bill came due from the Carter administration, if you went to buy a house, you were paying probably more interest than you're paying on your credit cards right now. Because interest rates got up into the, 20, 21, 22%. For a house. Think of what that payment was like. Okay? Do the math. It'll blow your mind. Cars, 25%. Credit cards, people didn't use those much because the interest rates on them were just absolute killers. You know what I'm saying to you? Sooner or later, the only way for the government to claw that money back is through increased interest. Yeah. It's going to happen sooner or later. Because when these other countries that invested in us start saying, no, we don't want to buy any more bonds, we want to cash out these, we have to come up with the money to do that, and we ain't got it. So when the wheels start turning to pay off the bill, they're going to grind you kids up right underneath the bus. I'm too old, man. By the time they start this stuff, I'll be in a box somewhere. But you young people are going to pay the bill. And it's a heck of a bill. Bigger than we've ever seen as a country, as a whole, for its entire history. And you're going to pay the bill. It sounds harsh, maybe, but maybe we do need to get they say, well, who's going to pick your oranges if there's no illegal aliens? People who need to eat. who need to pay their rent and who need to take care of their children. Yeah. And, you conservatives, you're terrible. Well, the biggest welfare cut ever made that got a bulk of the people off of public aid was Bill Clinton, a Democrat. Think about it a minute. He had to pay bills. Okay? So, he had to cut cost. If he wanted money for his little pet projects, he had to cut cost. Yeah. And welfare recipients, I know, the Democrats are all for the poor, right? Yeah. Until it comes to, for my pet projects, I've got to have this money. So, sorry about that, poor people. You need to get an education. You need to get a job. You need to move along. Okay? That's the reality. I'm glad to see that Goya Food, people got behind that company and took people like this Castro clown and AOC and slapped them upside the head with a can of beans. But free lunches for kids, feeding your children is your responsibility. To this extent, I don't care if you don't eat that day. That's so long as your children do. That's what a parent does. Okay? You talk to children and stuff that grew up during the Depression, you will learn that that is what happened a lot. Parent didn't get to eat, but the kids did. It's called being responsible for your children. Y'all need to learn that. You would have lawn chairs for furniture. No televisions, no iPhones, none of that nonsense. If you were being responsible for your children. Because your first responsibility to your children is to keep a roof over their head, food in their stomach, and clothes on their backs. It's not my responsibility. It's not the government's responsibility. It's yours. You decided to have children. Don't blame us. You made that choice. Grow up. Take responsibility. And take care of your kids. And I really firmly believe that if a state has to step in and remove a child out of the house so it can eat, they ought to take care and feed the mama too. Down at the jail cell. Where she's going to be. This stuff needs to end now. It's written Tennessee Homestead. Y'all take care.